Hey listeners, I'm Melissa Kepler. Welcome to our podcast about all things lifestyle, business, and content, how to navigate through each, and the important role your mental and physical health plays in all of it. So, let's talk about it. Noelle Andrews, welcome to Let's Talk About It. I'm very excited to have you here. You're my first official guest, which is a big deal.
I'm honored.
No pressure. Even though I'm going to be honest, guys, it took us about like an hour just to set everything up. Yeah. And so luckily I've known Noelle for a really long time at this point. So a little less embarrassment on my end. And she has been.
I'm happy to be here. I was like her PA. I was like,
been an angel. And luckily like she's in this field as well. So which we'll dive into with doing media. But so Noelle and I say a really long time, but it's really, do you know that Steve and I have not even been together 3 years?
I know.
Isn't
that
crazy? Insane?
It feels like a lifetime.
So Noelle's husband and my husband are in a relationship. not officially. Yeah, they're in a nothing like official, nothing government based, but they've been in love for a very long time. And so Noelle's been the third wheel of that relationship until I came along.
I was in a trifecta.
Yeah. It was it was a very interesting dynamic. It took me a while to understand it, but I feel pretty good about it now. I think it all makes sense.
I think we've like established some boundaries that it really helped with that relationship.
Yeah, exactly that. So basically I met my husband, Steve, back in December of 2022, which is, I met Noelle probably around February, March, like a couple months after that. I was terrified of her when I first met her. We actually just talked about this the other night because she was grilling me.
Which like, I didn't even realize I was grilling you. I think I was just like genuinely interested in like who you were. Yeah. But like it probably came off as like grilling.
Oh no, there was 100 questions in less than 5 minutes. I was fearing for my life. I was like, this woman does not like me.
Well, so I think part of it is Steve is so like quiet. Well, okay.
He is.
So I've known Steve, her husband Steve, to be quiet.
Both of our husbands are Steve.
Right. So
let's just get that out of the way.
Like, clarify. So I knew him as being quiet. So like in my mind, I'm like, I need to fill the silence. Like I need to ask questions because he's not going to offer anything up, and he's not going to like, give any information about you. So I had to just go straight to the source and like ask questions and learn about you.
Which is so funny because to me, Steve is not a quiet guy.
Right.
So I was so confused.
Right.
I mean, I understood later on once I saw Steve, in his element with his family and his friends, and I started to realize he doesn't talk to people the way he talks.
Right.
To me.
Right.
So you like asked me about a million questions. I left drained. I left that lunch. It was like literally we were at lunch for maybe an hour, if that.
Yeah.
And I kept saying to Steve, I'm like, she's scary. Like she does not like me. But you were so nice. Like it wasn't like you were saying anything in a mean way. I was just like, I hope I answered the questions all right. I kept asking him like, how'd I do?
And
he's like,
oh my God.
He's like, it's really not that serious. I promise you.
Right.
Like they're not.
Right.
They're chill. They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
And then we ended up meeting. I remember we went out to another event, like a
beer fest.
A beer fest of some sort, like only like a couple of weeks later.
Yeah.
And that was like the night that you had asked me, you're like, so how are things going? Like, how's the relationship? And I was like, oh, the communication's just really great. I was like, we can talk about anything. And I was like, really?
Yeah. I'm like, wait, this Steve? Yeah. Like, we're talking about the same person? You guys had like a 4-hour conversation on your first date? Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like genuinely, we got kicked out of the restaurant. They're like, we're closing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And we were just like, oh, we're not ready to end this conversation. We ended actually coming back to the house, me with a perfect stranger. Don't do this at home, kids. Don't go home with someone you meet on the internet on a first date. But I genuinely was
vibing.
We were vibing. I was already so comfortable with him.
Yeah.
And there was also just something like I could already see his goofiness to be like, this guy is not a threat.
Right. He is clearly not a serial killer.
It was like, call me too trusting. I was like, this man is not a threat.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Right.
I was like, I'm going to hurt him before he hurts me.
Yeah.
So we just like ended up talking, and then we spent the rest of the week literally together. And
yeah.
We've been in a relationship literally since our first date. So, but yeah, we've got we got married last year. We're coming up on 1 year of marriage on
Yay.
Halloween, which Noelle was our celebrant for. We call it celebrant because she didn't have to actually like ordain anything. We live in Pennsylvania, so Pennsylvania is a self-uniting state. Stephen and I actually married ourselves. We just signed a little piece of paper right there in front of all our closest family and friends, and Noelle kind of ran the whole show. So, which is a different vibe for her because she is a photographer and usually a wedding photographer.
Like, very out of, I try to stay out of the way during the ceremony and be like unobtrusive.
I was like, no, please be front and center and run the whole show.
Right. It's like, oh wait, okay, I have to be like in charge here. All right.
But it went great.
It was fun. I enjoyed it.
You were on the complete other end of it.
Yeah.
I originally said to Noelle, I was like, I don't want you to be a photographer at our wedding because I don't want you working at our wedding. I need you to be present and be a part of it. And then like a week later, I was like, well, actually, I do want you to work.
Right.
Just a little bit.
I just want you to run the show.
I just
like
want
the
you
whole
to run
thing.
the show. But I felt like that was still so much more involved as like family than it would have been if you were recording it.
And it felt special, like to be in that role. Like it was really nice. And I liked that we were able to talk, like get together beforehand and run through everything and talk about like basically what we're talking about now, like how you guys met and like running through everything. And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot like all those details, even though it had only been
feels like a
year.
lifetime.
It really
feels like a lifetime.
Truly.
I don't know how. So I've been married. I'm coming up on a year of marriage, but we haven't even been dating. December will be 3 years dating.
Yeah, which is
crazy, but I guess it's true when you know. Like,
yeah,
it's whatever. But so talking about the weddings and photography, you run your own business. So I want like everyone to kind of get to know you in that sense and like you as a business owner and everything that you do there. So I'm gonna let you take the lead on that.
Yeah. So I started my business in 2008 with a business partner. My business partner is Nicole, and we went to the University of Delaware together. So we were in like the same program, visual communications. She was more like the advertising side and I was more the photography side. So when we graduated, we like naturally wanted to go into like the commercial world. So I went up to New York to be in fashion photography and she went to work for an ad agency. And that was kind of the trajectory that like you expect when you're in like visual communications. But like I realized really quickly that I did not want to be in the fashion world in New York. It was just like not really my vibe.
I was gonna say, what was the reason that you didn't want to be in fashion?
Yeah, well, it's like 2-part reason. So like I genuinely love New York City, but it is not for the 20-somethings. Like it's not for the broke 20-somethings.
I was gonna say, there's a lot of nightlife there, but it's expensive.
It's expensive. So like I feel like you can just live more of that New York lifestyle and enjoy it more when you're like in your 30s and 40s when you're like more established. So as much as like
genuinely, New York is filled with broke 20-something.
right. And
regardless.
And literally, so like your whole paycheck
Everyone's
is
starving
going.
artist.
Yes, it's like your whole paycheck goes towards rent, and so it was just like tough. It was a tough thing to like have to deal with financially, but then also my job was just like, it sounded glamorous. It's like, okay, I was working for Saks Fifth Avenue in their photo studio, but I was like the third assistant. You know what I mean?
You're getting coffee.
Right. And which is fine. I'm fine with paying my dues, but in that world, you're the third assistant for like 5 years. And then you're the second assistant. And then like 5 or 10 years later, then you're the first assistant. And then maybe like 20, 25 years into your career, you're touching a camera.
Is this specific to fashion photography?
Just like, I think commercial photography in like that realm in New York City. I don't know.
There's also a different time.
Yeah.
In business in
That's
general
true.
back then,
That's
it was
true.
a lot different where like you were expected to be a workaholic. It's not like today's world where people are like, nope, you've got to find that work-life balance. You've got to practice good mental health.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case when we were growing up
and
starting out in our careers.
Yeah. And it was a lot of like, I mean, the industry was very like male run. It just was. So like there was a lot of, you have to like stay late for like test shoots and like helping and a lot of like the men photographers were like, kind of like hint, hint, like do this, like rub my back. And like, it just felt very icky where you're like, you find out later, like, oh, like this assistant was sleeping with like the head photographer and he's married, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I was just like, nope, not for me. Right. Like I'm out. And I got towards the end, I kind of like started to push back a little bit and like was getting very like testy with like the lead photographer and just kind of like letting him know like I'm not playing your game, dude, you know? And
I didn't spend all this time studying this.
Right. Too. And he kind of like made my life hell. Everybody just felt like so fake and like surface level. And that's just like not for me. Like I just really enjoy like getting to know people on a better level and like just, you know, creating those like friendships. And then the other side of that was my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, Steve, the other Steve. He was in Pennsylvania. So we were commuting back and forth to see each other. But like I didn't have a car.
I was gonna say Asbro kids.
Right, literally. So I was living in Hoboken and we just got tired of like that back and forth.
I'm sure.
And it was rough.
Long distance is not for the weak.
Yeah. Yeah. We like almost broke up. Like it was crazy. It was like a moment where it was like, okay,
we got to make some decisions.
Yeah. This is like not working. And I'll never forget, he, in a desperate attempt to win me over, brought me flowers, right?
To New York.
Yeah, to New York. And I was like, oh, that's really sweet. Guys, he brought me mums. Like that you buy from like Home Depot that like get planted in your front yard. And
he was trying.
It was like a potted plant of like mums that were infested with bugs.
Oh no.
So like I had it like next to my bed in the window and then like was waking up to like all these bugs in my apartment. And then I'm like, this is not an indoor plant. This is like an outdoor plant. Anyway, that's just a little, you know, hint about
that's
like
boy.
Who he is. Right. He's
that's
just
so
like,
boy.
It was like the thought was there. It was very sweet. So I really only spent a year in New York. And then when I decided to move down here to Pennsylvania, my partner Nicole had been living in Philly because her husband was in law school. So she was doing pretty well in like the advertising world, but she kind of also wanted to do something on the side. And so we were talking about like wedding stuff. And I had a couple of people ask me, do you shoot weddings? Because they knew that I did photography. So I was telling her, like, what if I shot weddings and then you design the invitations? Because she was like a designer.
Okay.
And we were like, okay, that's kind of a cool idea. So that's when the idea of our first business called Femina was born. And Femina is Latin for feminine. So we were like, okay, we're two women. So like that's how we came up with that. And then I started to just like teach her photography, and we just decided like we're going to shoot together and just learn it all together, learn the wedding business. So Femina was born and it did well. It's one of those things where it like snowballs in terms of like a business. It's just very easy to get like word of mouth out and like get business through client referrals. It's like you shoot one wedding and then all of a sudden you're like shooting a bunch. So it just kind of like took off from there, and we just like gradually grew it. And we were pretty good about like taking money and putting it back into the business. So we would like, because we both also had like other jobs. She was working full time and I was basically
you were doing this on the side?
Yeah. So we did Femina on the side for like a good 7 years.
That's a lot.
Before we decided to go full time, because
I actually never knew that.
Yeah, it's a lot to quit a job and then just try to make money running a business. Yeah, it's a lot.
Story of my life right now, actually.
Yeah, and so we both worked full time, and I eventually got a job as a full time production manager for another wedding photographer. But he was like,
oh wait, yeah, that part I did know. I remember.
Yeah,
that, yep.
So he was like really high up in the industry, like really well known, you know, like Nikon global spokesperson, all this stuff. So that experience really helped me gain a lot of insight into owning a wedding photography business. And I was very careful not to overstep with him. Like I didn't want to like...
He was fine with you having Femina on the side?
Right, right. As long as we didn't go after his vendors and things like that. So yeah, we did Femina on the side. And because of that, we were able to reinvest a lot of our money into the business. So we bought all of our equipment, which is obviously very expensive. Yeah. We were able to put money into advertising, design, like website, like all of that, marketing materials it took a while for it to get to the point where we were shooting like every weekend, you know? So like it wasn't, while I was working full time and doing filming on the side, I was also assisting wedding photographers to just gain as much experience as I could. Like, I just wanted to learn everything.
And those aren't normal hours. That means you're working nights and weekends on top of your full-time job.
Exactly. Yeah. So like my 20s, I just hustled like I was working like 7 days a week constantly, but I like learned a lot from that experience. So we finally got to a point where in 2015, right before my wedding, Nicole and I both decided like, okay, I think we're both ready to quit our jobs, do this full time. Because by that point we had a really solid like books, like we were booking pretty consistently. And at that time we ended up flip-flopping. She moved back to New York and I was in Philly. So we were like 50-50 as far as like 50% of our weddings were in New York and 50% were in Philly. Okay. So we were building our business in both cities essentially.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So yeah, 2015 came along and we were able to quit our jobs. I quit like a few months before the wedding, which was like, I tried to time it because I needed to like go on his insurance.
Yeah.
So like I tried to time it out.
That's actually amazing.
Yeah. And like my boss kind of knew like that I was just like hanging on for that reason, but he was fine with it. Whatever.
My mom literally works right now to vacation. Her boss knows that. She's like, I only want this job so I can pay for my vacations.
I mean, listen, if you're like upfront and honest about like your intentions, you know,
like, I'm gonna do the job,
right? I'm gonna do it well, but like, here's why. But yeah, so that ended up.
That's like in interviews. It's like, why do you want this job? And everyone's like,
yeah,
because
I need to make money, dude. Yeah. So like 2016 was like our first real like full blown full time. Like, you know, shebang. It's like, this is our full-time gig. Yeah. So it was going really well for many years. And then COVID hit. So 2018 was like our like biggest year as far as the most bookings, most revenue. Like we were like rocking and rolling. We had just gotten, we switched over to an S Corp from just like a regular partnership LLC. And the S Corp allowed us to be on a payroll essentially. So we could pay ourselves through W-2. So we were like on a steady like monthly payroll. We were doing really well, putting like loads of money into advertising. We were probably spending like, I don't know, 15 grand a year on like just advertising with like print advertising, The Knot, Wedding Wire. It did well. Like that type of advertising for the time did well. So by 2020, we are just getting ready to start the wedding season in March. Yeah. It like usually starts around like April. And when COVID hit, we obviously, like everybody else, didn't know the extent of like what it was going to be.
For sure.
And it was kind of just like, oh, we got to like postpone some weddings. Like, okay, they'll get pushed till later in the year. But then it just became this like
monster,
honestly, of like just a shit show really of where
like 3 years.
Yeah. And we just had clients coming to us like in a panic being like, we're pushing our wedding off to next year. And so then we kind of ran into this situation where we had a business that was built on retainers, like coming in a year ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And then this kind of like continuous flow of revenue and income because we would have like the retainer payment.
And then the wedding would happen.
And then, 90 days beforehand, we had like a 50% payment. Yeah. And then the day of the wedding was the final payment. So there was constantly a rolling, you know, like
source
influx of income. And so all of a sudden, not only are people pushing off their weddings, so all those payments got pushed back, we weren't getting new bookings because people were too scared to book. They didn't know what was going to happen.
For sure.
So 2020 really just like, it was like a dark place for everybody, right? But as business owners, it was terrifying because we just went from like, okay, we have all this money coming in and expected income to now that income is getting pushed off to 2021, which we didn't realize at the time was actually getting pushed off till 2021 and 2022.
Yeah, for sure.
Because people kept pushing their weddings back. Yeah. So
I knew a couple of people that were supposed to get married in 2020 that like didn't for years.
Yeah.
Later because it was like,
and it was like, because 2021 came around and all of a sudden we're still kind of in the same place. It's like, oh, there's a new variant. It's still just as bad as it was a year ago. So then we had clients that had pushed their date sometimes 2 or 3 times. And I really, truly felt for them. You know, we're in like these Facebook groups with like vendors, and there was a lot of bitching going on, right? There was a lot of people that were like just frustrated with the couples and angry that like they whatever.
Yeah, but imagine like how the couples feel.
Right. And that was the other thing. We were always trying to just be very like on top of our customer service. So if a client called me, I knew. I was like, okay, they're probably calling because like they have to push their date again or whatever.
Right.
I always picked up the phone and I always sympathized with them. And I was like, listen, I get it. I feel for you guys. Like, you're having to call all of your vendors. You're hoping that your band has the same date open. Your photographer, your florist, your venue. All those things have to align.
Everything having to push back to the same date. That's
and
crazy.
So I really felt for them, but it did put us in a really tough position financially. And luckily, we were in a unique position in that we had associate shooters. So if a date wasn't available for Nicole or I, we would tell our couples, like, listen, we can still fill your date and we have someone that can shoot. They're obviously trained by us. We trust them. If you're okay with them taking over, they can shoot your wedding on this date that you need. And so that was really good because we really didn't have to turn anybody away. So that part I felt really thankful for. But yeah, so like we basically took 1 year of income and stretched it across like 3 years because we were just having to like rebook our dates that we already had retainers for. We already had payments for.
Yeah.
So it was really rough.
It's so interesting, like hearing these stories of like everyone who's experienced kind of the financial loss of that time. And I felt like that was my most creative time ever. Like I was on the other end of it where it was like, I got furloughed from work.
Yeah.
And then ended up, I started streaming. I started watching Twitch in 2018. I started streaming in 2019.
Yeah.
So when we got furloughed in 2020, I was like, oh, I'm just going to try to stream full time, I guess, for now. And like dove into such a creative space where I was like, that was when I started making TikToks, you know, when it first became popular.
Yeah.
I started making TikToks. I was streaming all the time. I was cosplaying. That's how I learned. I taught myself to body paint during that time.
Is crazy.
Which if you saw my first body paint compared to like Starfire was my first ever full body paint.
Yeah.
From Teen Titans, for anyone who doesn't know that. And I redid Starfire from Teen Titans 2 years later. It looks like 2 completely different people painted them, which I'll have to show you later. But yeah, like for me, I was like, it was a dark time for my mental just because I am a very physical person.
Yeah.
And I was trying to work out at home, but then it got less and less. And then the sleeping got less. And then it just became easier to order food all the time. And I was scared to leave the house. Like, because I can be a little paranoid. I'm going to be perfectly honest. Like my anxiety makes me paranoid.
Yeah.
But so it was funny when people were like, oh, now everything has to be over Teams messages or Zoom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, streamers invented this, like,
right.
in Discord and play games with each
like,
other on calls and video. I know. Yeah, I'm like, we created this.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for this our whole lives.
Yeah.
So like the first couple of months into like the first year was like a blast.
Yeah.
But then until 2021 into 2022, it started to be like, okay, this is like just the same day. It was Groundhog Day.
Right.
Because then I was like, I started to lose track of time. It would be like, okay, well, what else? We'll game tonight. I'll get in a Discord call with a bunch of friends and we'll play some games. And the next thing you know, it's 8 a.m. and I'm still drinking wine.
Right.
Because we're playing games for 13 hours because where do we have to be the next day?
Right.
And so like it was definitely a part that like was so rewarding and fulfilling for me as an artist and learning new art and like being able to expand that creativity. And I love broadcasting. Like obviously it's a big reason of why Let's Talk About It is created. I've like all of my ventures now stem from things that I have done over the last 10 years and like want to kind of just dive into a little bit more. I had like a little podcast that I did with another streamer for a little while, and it was very specific streamer tips and conversations and like open that kind of stuff. So Yeah, it's just interesting. That time brought out so many different emotions for so many different people.
Right.
And
right.
like we weren't all in the same boat though. Everyone was
Right.
like everyone was having a tough time, but in completely
Yes.
different ways.
Yeah. I think it comes down to like it was a very human experience.
Yeah.
For everyone in different ways. And it's interesting you said that about creativity because I felt like all of a sudden my creativity was taken away. Like because what I do is,
when your
is
business
photographing
was that,
people. I'm in front of people all the time. And I felt very creatively like stagnant and like all of a sudden, you know, I tell people all the time during COVID, I had to reconcile like who am I without my business? Who am I when I'm not creating and like doing? And so I had to kind of like in a way, it was a blessing because I was able to kind of try to get back to like who I am. Like, what do I enjoy?
Yeah.
Because
like for fun rather than having to do it financially.
Yeah. And I hustled for so many years and I put my business before everything.
Mm-hmm.
I was like literally twiddling my thumbs and like, what do I do all day? And at the same time, we were going through IVF. So we were having infertility issues. So we were trying to have a baby. And so I was seeing all of my friends like spending time with their kids. And it was like, okay, I'm not working, but at least I get to be home with my kids. And I was alone. I was utterly alone because my husband was a nurse. So he was working.
So during that time, he was working.
And he was like,
you guys went like the opposite ways.
Ends of the spectrum. And he was dealing with all of this like really heavy stuff with the hospital and everything. And so I just had to like kind of dig deep and started to just try to find things that would fulfill me. Like it just was very simple, basic. I went back to doing yoga every day and I started doing online classes and trying to support, you know, other teachers, like yoga teachers that I knew were trying to like get their online classes going. And I read so much. Like I read a lot. Definitely drank a lot of wine for sure.
I think that's like the one thing everyone has in common. That's the only 2020 that everyone experienced and shared is the lots of drinking.
Yeah. So much drinking.
Maybe that's why we're all entering like sobriety and more and more sober these days.
Yep.
Like
sober curious.
So much over the last 5 years.
It's so true. Yeah. So
still love me a martini, but like,
just like stuff like that. And I dove headfirst into relearning French. I was like, I joined these like groups on Facebook or like wherever I could find these like groups where you could FaceTime and talk and try to like just learn that. So as a result of that, Nicole and I kind of said like, we have to pivot in our business. Like the events industry is obviously not bouncing back. So we have to figure this out. So because her and I had that commercial background and her in advertising and me in commercial photography, we decided to start a sister company called Catapult. And so Catapult was specifically for like corporate and commercial branding, photography, and videography. And it was something where we realized too that it was actually more fulfilling than the wedding stuff because
the creativity part of it.
Like we had done weddings for so long that like it's not that weddings can't be creative.
No, they're of course.
It's there because every wedding is different. So even if like the bones, the structure of every wedding is similar, there's still ways to like, you know, be creative about it. But for us, we had been doing it for like, you know, 15 years at that point almost. And so the creativity does get stagnant. And so I found that I really enjoyed the video aspect of branding videos. I liked going out and like filming for companies and like learning about companies and brands and helping them tell their story. So that's really what our focus is now on branding, video branding, storytelling. Femina is still running, but it's more now is like an associate studio. Yeah. So we have associates shooting for us. And we did, you know, kind of scale it back quite a bit because it still requires a lot of, you know, time and effort. It
started as your side business and now it's your side business again.
Oh my God, so true.
Like full circle.
Right. That's kind of crazy to think about, but I think we just realized that we had kind of put all of our eggs in one basket and it just really didn't serve us well. So
I think that's with anything though, especially as a creative, right?
Yes.
Like we said earlier, joking, like obviously I need money. That's why I want this job.
Right,
But
right.
and then they always say like, if you do the thing you love, then you never work a day. But then there are times where it's like, if you do it so much and you have to do it for financial gain, it strips the love of it a little tiny bit. Not saying you don't still love it, but like I dance. I thought I would never stop dancing.
Right.
I don't really dance anymore. That's actually kind of how I leaned into Soul Cycle, because that kind of combined my love of still getting the rhythmic release that I need. But I danced for so long. This was my life. But then as I got older and older, it became to the point where I'm like, I'm teaching classes. I'm getting older, like lifting people and flipping them for acrobatics and like dancing in heels. And then next thing I know, I've got to choreograph, and then I got to go this weekend and go run a masterclass. And I still love it. But then when you are teaching so much and you almost where it's like, I can't say no to the job because the money's like, oh, well, they're going to pay me my rates.
Right.
I can't say no to that. But when you're doing it so often, I'm like, oh my God, is my choreography starting to look all the same? Like,
right.
You know what I mean? I'm like,
you get bored of yourself.
I'm just like, okay, how do I not do this move in my next piece? How do I not do that? And like, there's just not enough, I don't know, like, I guess the emotional creative release that like you look forward to. And so, like now if I teach a dance class, I'd be like really excited because I'm like, oh, I just get to, haven't done this in a little while. Let me like really just let it go. Because I'm still well educated and experienced enough that just because I'm not currently dancing doesn't mean I don't have the experience to teach a dance class.
Right,
you know what I mean?
And who knows, you may like it, you may get back to it someday in some way or another.
And it's kind of like why I'm leaning into bar too, because bar is more technical dance based fitness classes. And that's why I'm leaning into creating bar lists and kind of everything that's going around me, you know, branding myself into trying to do all the things that I love. Doing this podcast because I love broadcasting, doing the bar because I love dance and fitness. And so it's kind of like those things. I think even with like working in the gyms, I'm like, I worked in gyms because I love fitness and I love helping people. Yeah. But then as you climb the company and you get further and further, which I wanted to do, like that was my goal. And I asked for these promotions and I'm experienced enough. I deserve to get that job. But I kept getting further and further away from the actual fitness end of things. Right. I started just managing people doing the fitness, you know?
Yeah.
And so it bothered me because I felt like I always had to be, I didn't have to be the bad guy, but you know, when you're running everything, someone's got to be the black and white and the voice of reason. And like, listen, this is still a business. And you have to do that with yourself for your businesses.
Absolutely.
And so it's hard because like, you get excited to work in a field that you love until you have to do it all the time. And then it just feels like you're back to that Groundhog Day, like what I was talking about. So it's like, how do you balance that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it is. You know, I was lucky in that I had a partner, right? So like I could kind of balance some of these things with like, we would each take on things that were our strengths and like we could kind of divvy up the workload.
Yeah, which is really nice.
Which on the other flip side of that, you then have 2 mouths to feed. You have 2 households to feed.
Right.
So, you know, for us,
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So like as a wedding studio, for the amount of weddings we were doing, if we were a single person, we would have been like making bank.
Right.
But because we were splitting everything, we were profitable and we were making money, but we weren't making like really good money. Like we would have if it was singular owned.
Yeah. Right.
So that was the other reason why we were like, okay, well, the corporate and commercial stuff can be a little bit more lucrative. And, you know, and the fact that just businesses, corporations like have budgets for advertising. You're charging corporations
versus an individual.
Right. And there was definitely a whole other element of weddings for me that got really hard to do in terms of like the mental load and the emotional load, especially like going through IVF. I just got to the point where having to show up for my clients when like all this other stuff is going on and you want to be on because it's their most important day of their entire life. So you want to make sure that you're on, you're there for them, you're kind of like hand holding them throughout the whole process.
There's a level of masking that is required.
Yeah.
As like being like the front facing of a creative business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You don't like it's, you know, you don't really have those like off days. If I was going through something really hard, and this can be said for anybody in any type of business owner, like going through things in their life where it's, you can't really like, you don't have that time to step back and just say like, I need to take some time for me.
Right.
It's like, no, I have to like show up and do my job and do it well. So yeah, so I would be at a wedding and something might like trigger me, like whether it was someone, the father of the bride is giving a speech and saying like, oh, like, can't wait till you pop out babies, or saying something where I would just get like really triggered, and I would have to take a moment. I would want to be in tears, but I like couldn't, because I'm in the middle. I'm like, front and center shooting, and it just became a thing where I wanted to like step back from it all.
Yeah, and your peace of mind is more important. And that, like you said, for any business, I think a lot of people now, I think it's better where we live in a time where people do prioritize the work-life balance a little bit more. People are taking the time to have slower mornings and like, take journaling, meditation, making sure they get their exercise and actually drinking water. I think there was a time where no one drank water ever.
How did we survive? What did we survive on?
I literally never drank water. I don't understand. But so I think like it's not said as much as it should be that like you can't show up in that in those like situations unless you take care of yourself. Like you have to put yourself first, and it's not. I mean, sure, it is being selfish, but it's like you're supposed to be selfish because like the only person that has you is yourself. You know, like you're the only one who can protect yourself from any type of like disheartening conversations or weird feelings or just not having enough energy for the day. You're the person who's keeping you fed. You're the person who's keeping you hydrated. So like that stuff is starting to be talked about a lot more now that mental health is taking a forefront in conversations versus like that was taboo, right? Like we didn't talk about that growing up. Like it was weird to have anxiety or to be, if you have depression or anything like that.
Someone had to be in therapy, like God forbid.
It's like, well, what's wrong with you? Nothing. Human. Just being a human. So that's really important. So you chose to step back away from weddings, leaned into the commercial end of things, and like you feel better.
Yeah. So like from a creative standpoint, I love it. Like, I love that every shoot is totally different. It's like all these different industries. Like, we did a shoot last year for an architecture firm and got to interview them just about like this big project that they had in the city. And it was really interesting to like learn how that whole process takes place. What does happen when they have to build this skyscraper in the city? Like, from the ground up, they have like all these crazy things and so many moving parts as far as like how to build in the city, and especially for this, they were building it for a university. So there was just like all these different aspects of it that I learned about, and like I know so much more about like architecture now, which is kind of cool. And so I like that aspect that I get to kind of like deep dive into all these different industries and types of businesses. And then for Nicole, she gets to do more of that like advertising work that she really loved as far as creative direction, art direction. And we work really seamlessly together that way.
That's great.
So when I'm shooting, she will help put together a shot list, and sometimes she's behind me while I'm shooting. She might say like, oh, what if we just like left a little bit more room on this side for the text, or what if we came in and tried like from this angle? And I'm open to that type of feedback. I mean, not every like cinematographer, videographer is going to be like that, but I like
partnerships can be tricky.
It is. And I always say like we are basically like a married couple. Like we have a bank account together,
right?
Taxes together, have to have like hard conversations. So we've kind of like figured it out over the years, but I do really love getting that kind of feedback from her during shoots, because when I go to sit down and do the edit, it really kind of comes together, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I see what she was trying to do, and like I see what she was saying. And then on the flip side, like I sometimes will come in with more of like the technical things, just shoot things a bunch of different ways and get all kinds of cool B-roll. And then later on, she's like, oh, that's cool. I didn't even know you were like doing that.
So your eyes are just completely different, and and it works.
Yeah. And like our brains work very differently. And, hers is more like about the overall vision, which I can really appreciate. And then I'm just really all about like the shooting part of it and the editing. So it's really unique, because a lot of times when you are a video company, you just have maybe like one person who just goes out and like videos, and they're kind of doing everything, right? They're doing the scripting, interviewing, all of that. But for us, we can kind of play off each other and she plays to her strengths with like coming up with the script and interviewing, and she's really good at like pulling things out of people.
Yeah.
And then I can play to my strengths of like the actual shooting and editing. So it's worked out really well, and we are hoping to be kind of like the women-owned production studio in the city. As far as we know, we're the only female-owned production studio.
Okay.
So, I mean, we just got our...
So make sure you check them out.
Yeah, we got our women-owned business certification. So that's like one thing we can kind of like, we can put on our website and advertise and try to get like, bid for those types of jobs. It's really exciting. So
and being good at all that stuff, like in a time like today where social media is like such a big deal, and it's such a great tool to use. Yeah, it's nice that you guys know how to create social media, right? Because you're already creating content for a living, and then that is your social media. Yeah, so it's really nice to be able to like utilize that, because I think nowadays like all businesses are trying to find ways to dive into social media a little bit more and like really figure out how to market their business in fun and trendy ways, and keep it fresh. Yeah, because like the word content, or the phrase content creator, the title content creator, I'm like, content creators existed long before that became a job. Like before people were influencers and content creators, like we existed long before social media deemed that, a title of a type of person, because we are your artists, your singers, your dancers, your photographers, your painters, like all of these people who are makers and crafters, musicians, like performers of any type, creative performing and crafts, like we were content creators our whole lives. So that's why it's like, it's not weird for us to like make these videos, or we don't find something cringe or silly, or like it feels more effortless, or like, aren't you worried about what someone would think? We've been doing this for so long, and like
we're so used to criticism.
Yeah. I mean, listen, and we grew up talking about it during a time where like the field was like more male dominated, and you did have to like, being in the industry was a time, and it was weird, and also like the way we had to look to be in these industries, like dance, I had eating disorders and all of these other things. I had issues with growing up during a time, but like we push through because we love it and it's creative. But it's funny now because I like love making my silly little TikToks, and people are like, aren't you worried about people finding you cringe? I'm like, after what I've been through growing up, I'm like, this is strangers on the internet are the least of my concerns right now. I was like, I think if anything, like now it just feels fun and easy and light. And I think it only becomes mentally daunting if you allow it to. Yeah. And I think that's for those who didn't grow up in a creative space, who are just now trying to navigate it for the first time. Yeah. And it's really not that big of a deal. But also, if you are on the other end of it, which I do want to dive into, because we had a conversation earlier this morning about, if you do decide that you want to use content creation to further your business or your profession or whatever you're interested in, and you need additional help, and you want to hire photographers or video editors, or someone who is a professional content creator, influencer on social media, and they have a lot of followers, and you want to use them, like, you have to be aware of the time and energy that goes into these things. Sure, it was a 10-second video, but how many takes did that take? They got dressed that day. They put on their hair and makeup or whatever the case. They found the perfect setting. They recorded it. They edited it. They found the lighting. Like, these things take time, and it takes an eye, which we were talking about, like, and everyone has different eyes, and they might bring something to the table that like you weren't expecting. So if someone's like, oh, I'm just looking for a few flyers and maybe like one video, and you're like, oh, that it costs that much. Because I've actually seen there's a trend right now where businesses are posting on TikTok where they're like, I tried to hire an influencer to promote my restaurant, and they tried to charge me like $500. So I'm just going to sit here in front of it instead and hope that I get the likes that I want. And it's like it's supposed to be like a trend. Can I still just get the recognition? This is my business. Yeah. Which I love that. I don't think you should have to hire people. I do think, though, if that is the route that you want to go, you have to understand why it's an expense, and and note that these are people's lifestyles, and like if you're asking for their talent and their creativity, you have to be willing to compensate them for that time and energy. It's a very underrated profession. I just think in general, I think people are like, oh, you take pictures, oh, you splice a video up, oh, you added some text over. It's like, it's so much more than that. Right. I do think this is like a tale as old as time, as far as like creators and artists are
like in general, they've
yeah.
always been asked to work for free.
Dancers,
right?
exposure.
Like,
I'll give you
exactly.
exposure. Be in my
Same with
I'm
photography. It's like, oh, you can get exposure. And it's like, okay, sure. You know, when you're in your early 20s or you're just starting out, like maybe
right.
you want that exposure and that
I can't
experience.
say I've never done it,
No.
but I'm at this grown age. Don't
Right.
ask me to do anything.
Right.
Unless I'm offering.
Yes.
Because I do. Like, I'm happy to help out a friend and like create something and do something, or be like, oh, I have an idea. Do you mind if I step in? Like, I love that kind of stuff. I want to be there for like my friends and all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, but if someone is seeking me out to do something for them, you have to realize what you're asking for.
Yeah, exactly. I do appreciate that it's getting more recognition now that like you have to pay people for their time
because social media is so big.
Right. And that content creation is in itself a job.
Right.
And that it's not just someone with an iPhone. Like if you saw this setup right now, like this is legit. I mean, we've got a soundboard, lights, like, you know, these microphones, everything. It's more than just like setting up a phone and just shooting. So I think,
we said in the beginning, it took, you know, I had this set up, was working on setting this up like an hour before she even got here. And then when she got here, it took us another hour almost just to get set up because there's troubleshooting, sound checks. I had to swap my mixers out because the one mixer, like the audio wasn't working. I switched my cameras out. I had to move the lights around. Like it takes time. And like, you might be like, okay, you move the lights around. It's like, but you have to have an understanding of like what I'm looking at, what I'm seeing, like where are the shadows being casted?
Right.
Is there light on both of our faces, evenly distributed? What's the contrast look like in the video? Yeah, it is more. And yes, do I shoot content with just my iPhone sometimes? Sure. But it's still always going to be so much more than like what you expect. It's very rarely ever one take.
No.
Of anything.
And when you're shooting with your phone, you're still coming in with a strategy. And like you said, like you are composition, lighting, all of it. So I'm glad that it's getting more recognition. And obviously what I do is on a different level as far as like when I'm shooting a big like video production or whatever for like a company. But
you're like the cinematic side of things.
Right.
You like more long form content. I like short form content.
Right. But at the end of the day, it's still creative, right? 100%. It's still creative work and you still need to be compensated appropriately. So I'm glad that this is like getting the exposure that it needs.
For sure.
Yeah.
Going back, I think that it wouldn't be as far along as it is if COVID didn't happen. Mm-hmm. I think that played a big part because that is when TikTok took off. That's when people like all they had was time to create content.
Yeah. And like, I do think like there was so much creativity that came out of that. And, you know, and I think people realized the importance of entertainers and how it's not just this, you know, especially when you talk about in terms of education and like schools and when they say like, oh, they're taking away money for the arts, right? And like theater and art class and all these things. And some people might brush it off as it's just like fluffy or it's just extracurricular.
Yeah, like don't get me started.
Like the entertainment, that's what keeps you alive, like that you go to the theater to like experience something and you feel alive when you experience
and really understanding the level of skill that is up on that stage too,
right?
Just like even like, and I keep going back to dance because I will swear up and down dance is so underpaid and so underrated. Like, I know professional dancers who live in small apartments, who still work jobs on the side, who are creating a lot of content, you know, whether they're teaching classes online and teaching kids dance, and like they're doing a million different things to support their dreams because they'll book a gig and it's great, like they got the gig and it is more exposure than the money that they really deserve. But if you're a professional dancer, you're always hustling. Yeah. You're always looking for the next gig. You're always at auditions. You're always exercising, eating right, like stretching. Right. You have to train constantly to keep your body is your tool. So to keep your tools sharp, you have to constantly be training. And there's just like so much that goes into it. And like, I genuinely just think that we pay so much money growing up to have those skills, right? Like the amount of money that goes into it is so much higher than what's returned when you do book a job or when you do like, get on stage. And, you know, I don't know, it's it's sad. But like, like professional dancers, a lot of them are doing well on TikTok. There's a couple that I follow. They started, so they were, if I butcher this and for any reason they hear this episode, I'm so sorry. They go by Costin.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm obsessed with them.
But you know how they started? So it was during the pandemic. They were staying with her parents, I believe. Sorry if I'm butchering the story, but they started doing dance TikToks in her room in like the attic of her parents' house or something like that, because they got quarantined together there.
Right.
Like they were he was visiting her and her parents or something like that. And so they ended up getting forced into living together, and they were both dance majors. And so they just would make those dance. That's how they started. So they would make dance videos. And they just kept doing it. And then next thing you know, they were famous and
they're choreographing.
They got married and they have a house and they still do all this really creative dance stuff. And I like that they do stuff outside of full body dance. Like they'll just do kind of like hand dances and things on the tables. But now they're out and about choreographing musicals and teaching classes live and they're living their dreams. And it was like,
so cool.
That was a result of like just social media, creating the content of just taking a chance and for them, it was probably just an outlet.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like we're cooped up in here.
Yeah.
We're locked in here. Let's just keep our bodies sharp. Let's keep dancing. So yeah, I know I just went on like a little tangent about it, but like I get so I'm such a believer that the arts need to be supported a lot more than they are.
Oh my God. And for a lot of people, a lot of kids, it's their outlet, you know, and like it's how they find themselves, find their creativity. And not everybody is on that trajectory of going to college. Like for me, I didn't really need to go to college. I knew I wanted to do photography, and of course it helped me. But for a lot of kids who may not want to go that college route, if they don't have the arts to explore things and find what they love and figure out what their calling is, you know, it's going to affect a lot of people in general, not just kids, because those kids are going to grow up and they might be a little bit lost or whatever. So I think it's so important.
Maybe this is an unpopular opinion, maybe it's not, but I don't believe that college should be directly after high school. I feel like that kind of force, like you have to make a decision about what you want to do with the rest of your life at 18 years old, to me is crazy. Yeah. Because the amount of times that's going to change over the years anyway.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's not even like, okay, make a decision and start in that career field. It's like make a really expensive, like financially draining decision.
Yes. A lifetime
as a teenager.
Yep.
Yeah, for a lifetime worth of debt for a job that you may or may not do. The amount of people I know who are not in the field that they graduated, like that wasn't their major. Yeah. And it's like, there's just so many people that don't end up working in their fields, or they graduate, they do get a job, they do work in that field, and they end up hating it. And it's like, so now you're in how much money worth of debt for it? I just feel like there's nothing wrong with taking a gap year. I feel like everyone should take a gap year, if I'm being so perfectly honest, and just do like that whole like figuring out what it is you want to do, who you are, which is going to still change in the next couple of years, because I always think about this. I'm like, oh, there are still people who think they know me, but they know nothing about me. I'm like, if you knew me before I was 30, you know nothing about me. If you knew me before I was 35, you know nothing about me.
Well, it's a different version of you.
There's just so much. Yeah. And there's a lot of those versions that like, I don't even know that person anymore. Like I don't regret anything that I've ever done in my life, just because I feel like there's all of these moments, the good, the bad, the ugly, they shape us into who we are. Right. And like how can I speak so positively about what I want and who I am and all of the things I can today if I didn't have all those experiences? And I've had a lot of heartbreak. I have lost a lot of friends. There have been, situations that have not been the best. There are things that like I may be embarrassed by, but I never regret, because you just change so much. Yeah, I think we just need to let kids be kids. I don't even think saying 18 is an adult. It's like, I guess.
I know.
I guess. Sure.
I agree. And also too, like, I know for me, I felt like very sheltered, and I wasn't really allowed to, like, my parents were just like protective. And so I wasn't allowed to experience a lot of things. So when I got to college, it was like, okay, open the floodgates. Like, I'm just all of a sudden on my
All at
own
once.
and I can
Yeah.
just do whatever I want to do. No one's telling me that I don't have to go to class or whatever, you know? And I think that some kids probably waste their first year of college
Oh, I'm
just
sure.
figuring out how to be on their own and be an adult, you know? And so I am 100% with you. Like,
Yeah.
I am a big proponent of that.
And I also don't think it's necessary to have that expense if you're not becoming like an architect or a doctor or you know what I mean? Something
Yeah,
that like
it's
requires some real training. I
Right.
feel like there's a lot of, I don't want to say jobs. I want to say there's a lot of skills that can be learned outside of the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that can be self-taught that you don't even like with cosmetology, like all of my makeup, all, like art, all of that's all self-taught. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I consider myself a makeup artist. I've never gone to a cosmetology school,
Right,
but
right.
if you tell me I'm not a makeup artist, I'm like, that's your opinion. Another thing that I think we've come a far way is like, I don't think it is as forced as it used to be. It's kind of like, no, you're going to go to a good school. You're going to get a good job.
Right.
I don't think that is as prominently pushed into like children's minds as well as it used to be when like we were younger.
Well, I think also those kids grew up and now we're the parents.
Right.
So we have a different perspective, you know, and I do think that the millennial generation anyway
changed everything.
Yeah. Like I think we are probably going to see a lot less of that, like, you know, forcing kids into college. And not to say that I don't think some people still think it's really important, but I just think that there's going to be a lot more like open-mindedness to it. And hopefully as employers and as the people in charge, like hiring these younger kids now, I think we recognize that like experience is sometimes more important than education.
For sure. I believe that 100%. I feel like everything I've done in my life has been experience-based.
Yeah.
And I've done well for myself
until
I just jumped off a cliff and decided I didn't want to do any of it anymore. But that was a decision I made.
No big deal.
But guess what? My college degree is not down the drain because
Right.
I don't have one. But like,
there you go.
So it just, you know, it is what it is. But all right, so we were talking into how you segued we went off 17 tangents, and I love that for us. Yeah. But we were talking about how you segued from weddings into commercial, saying like the weddings were like a little bit triggering. There were some things, because I know you were doing the IVF, and that was something that you dove deep into also, of like creating a community online. Mm-hmm. So using social media in that sense. Yeah. Because I know you created an account to kind of connect with other going through IVF. Yeah. And I wanted to kind of just like ask you a little bit about that and how you got started down that road.
Yeah. So when I was going through it, like IVF and infertility can be extremely isolating. Like it's just one of those things where you hear about it and kind of in an abstract sense, you sort of understand it, but you don't really get it until you're like in it. And I think that's for a lot of experiences in life, but especially with something so just like mentally and emotionally draining. Mm-hmm. And I just, as I was talking to people in person, I started to realize like so many people go through this, and you know, especially women, they just feel like they have to keep a lot of this in, and you know, a lot of the comments get geared towards them. It's like at like family outings or like with friends, not necessarily with us, but just from what I've seen with friends, they always turn to the woman and they're like, oh, when are you guys having kids? You know, or why haven't you had kids yet? Or, you know, when are you going to give me grandbabies? And so like when I'm talking from like my perspective. But I have connected with other people in this space online who are single mothers by choice or same-sex couples going through very similar experiences, because once they start IVF and they realize like, oh, it's not as simple and easy as you thought. So that kind of made me realize like, okay, if I'm talking to these people in real life and realizing we have a lot of this in common and this kind of like isolation and, you know, all these things, then there must be other people online who are going through similar things that maybe want to connect with other women or other people going through it. So I started this IVF account. The handle has now changed because I have a daughter. So it was my Millennial IVF Warrior, and now it's Millennial IVF Mama. And when I started that, I kind of started it just as a place to like put all of this and talk about my experiences and not have to subject my like regular friends and followers too. So it was like, I started this account. If you want to follow my journey, then like go over and like that. So I'm not like constantly posting here about it. And then it kind of just, you know, as you're following other people and people follow you back, you kind of just like meet others in the space. And I realized that it was healing in a way to like connect with other people going through similar experiences, because you know, we would be messaging back and forth, just like complete strangers that I don't know, that I met on the internet, telling me like how they felt going through some of these cycles as far as retrievals, transfers, you know, everything leading up to it, all the tests you have to go through. And it was really nice to just like talk to someone else going through those experiences and be like, oh, wow, like I'm not alone. I'm not just going through this all by myself, even though like it feels like it in the moment, even if you have a partner, like my husband was going through it too, but in a different way.
Yeah.
And so, and his experience was very different than my experience, because I'm getting like very invasive tests done and all these things. And so talking with other women about it, I felt very just validated in my feelings around it, around my experiences.
Yeah, because it's hard to explain to someone who's never experienced it before.
Yeah. And sometimes
like I would never, I don't even know what it entails. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there's no way for me to have a conversation with you about it that I could be like, oh yeah, I get that. Like I can be empathetic, you know, but I'm only going to really understand so much of that.
Yeah. And you start to gaslight yourself a little bit about like how intense it is. And you start to be like, oh, well, maybe it's not that big of a deal, or maybe I'm just talking about it too much, or I'm making too big of a deal out of it. Because, you know, just talking about it with people who haven't gone through it, it's kind of like, I would just start to feel like, oh, am I talking about this like too much? Am I like making this into something that it's like shouldn't be? And so talking to other people who did go through it, I realized no, it is actually pretty traumatizing. So it's not just me.
Yeah.
So that experience was really nice of just like connecting with other people. And through starting that account, it's kind of how I found the doctor that we ended up using in California.
Right.
Because I was following all these other IVF accounts, and specifically for male factor infertility.
Yeah, because so you had a doctor for several years.
Yeah.
That you were working with, and then you made a switch, and then when you did make the switch, that's when you got Sophie.
Yeah, yeah. So I had been following all these accounts, and I found this doctor, and he was like leading the charge for like male factor fertility. He was a fertility urologist, and he's based in California. And so I was like, what if we just had a virtual consult with this doctor just to get his opinion and see if he could study our case and figure out what was going on, or if there was any other avenues we could go. And I would not have found him if it wasn't for social media.
Creating the account, right?
And creating that account. And I actually found out that 2 of my followers also used him.
Oh, really?
So when I started posting about this doctor that I found and that we had a consult with him, 2 people that followed me were like, so actually we used him, and they got pregnant.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to like have a phone call with one of the girls and just asked her like all these questions, like what was your experience like with him? And that was crazy, because like he's all the way across the country. This girl's in another state.
Okay.
So none of this would have come together if it wasn't for
the internet's a crazy place.
I know. It's amazing.
I was gonna say it's amazing. It's a scary place, but it's an amazing place.
Yeah. Yeah.
When used for good and not evil.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So because we've transitioned, we now have a daughter, and she was born this past January.
She's going to be 1 before you know it.
I know. We're like only a few months away.
Insane.
It's crazy.
She was in Noelle's belly at my wedding this time last year.
I was super pregnant. My husband called me Big Belly Noelle. And
never gets old.
Yeah. So to
be fair, he has a nickname for everyone. So
that's true. That's true. You're MK Ultra.
I'm MK Ultra. Yes.
So she's wonderful, but I did want my Instagram to like evolve because of that. And I still want to advocate for infertility and IVF. But I also wanted to like be able to post about life as a mom and just like all these experiences that I have now.
And you're pretty considerate too, because like I follow all your accounts, and once it's switched over to Mama, I've seen that like you've posted things that like, hey, the next slide's going to talk about X, Y, and Z.
Right,
if you find this triggering, please skip. Like, you let those who are still in their struggles, like, if this is where I'm going to go to talk about my journey now that I am a mother, if you're not interested in that, don't watch the video type of thing. And I think that's really nice that you do that. So you still have a space where you're open to have the conversations and you're giving information to those who are still hopeful. Yeah. But you're also you don't talk about your experiences having now had a baby as like a in your face type of thing. It's you're still trying to be as considerate as possible and respectful of like their feelings and what they're going through.
Because I was in their shoes at one point. Like I was following accounts and then they had, a baby, and then it just, you're happy for them, obviously, but you kind of still feel a certain way. And like you see those posts and it's kind of like triggering, or you're like, ugh. So I want to be respectful, but I did kind of poll my followers at one point, and I was like, do you guys want me to put up a trigger warning? What do you guys feel? Because I don't have a huge following. So like I felt like I could tailor it to the people that were following me and like actively engaging with me. And a lot of people said, they were like, no, I'm happy for you. I don't mind. And I'm not posting the things that are particularly triggering, like an ultrasound or like things like that I know would kind of just really rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. So I try to be respectful, but I do still really want to advocate for IVF. So it's all good.
My feet, for anyone who listens to this on audio only, I'm 5 foot and my feet dangle off my sofa if I sit with my back all the way.
You look like a 5-year-old.
I'm literally I'm just a girl.
I love it.
When people say I'm literally just a girl, if you get to watch the video of this, I'm literally just a girl.
I love it. I'm
just dangling my feet. Sorry, not to make that less serious, the conversation less serious.
No, it's all
so
good.
Now we have her, and she's here. I say we because she is also my baby.
Well, you're Titi.
I am Titi. How has life owning your own business changed, or hasn't changed, since she's come into life? Like, what are things that have made your life drastically different, or things that you thought were going to be drastically different that you're actually, no, it's pretty sane, pretty normal? Like, what does that look like for you as like a business owner and a wife and having a home to maintain and all that stuff that you were already doing prior to her coming into your life?
Yeah. I think the biggest change, honestly, is just mindset. Okay. So obviously my priority now is her. Right. So like being a mother, being just so involved in her life, especially these early years, I think it's really important for me personally to just be very involved. So now I'm just a little bit pickier about what takes up my time in regards to business. And Nicole actually feels the same way because she has 2 little kids. And, obviously I'm understanding her viewpoint a little bit more, and just, I wasn't in the same place that she was when her kids were my daughter's age. Yeah. So, I was always empathetic and sympathetic to like her viewpoints as far as like, okay, my priorities have changed. But obviously now I understand it a little bit more. And it just comes down to, is what I'm doing and what I'm pouring my energy into, is it taking away from my family time too much? Is it helping my business in the ways in which I thought it would? Like, you pour a lot of energy into your business, and sometimes what you're putting into it is not always fruitful. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't always work out the way you thought it would, or you're kind of just like throwing things at the wall hoping it sticks, right?
Right.
Yeah, you get it. So I think now I'm just a little bit more deliberate with those things that I'm trying to do. For example, networking. So networking is huge for our business. And it's just a matter of now I'm kind of saying like, okay, is this specific networking event going to help propel my business? Or is it just kind of like a social thing?
To do it right.
Right. So it's just being a little bit more deliberate in those decisions.
What about the jobs that you take? Like, do you turn away anything now, feeling like maybe that's not worth the time, or are you guys kind of like...
I think we're definitely a little bit more picky as far as like if it's not going to pay us enough to take us away from our families, because especially for Nicole, like she pays for daycare and like childcare. So for her, it has to make sense financially. Right. Am I going to go work for a whole day and put the kids in an extra day of daycare or whatever? And then for me, I'm lucky that I have help with like my in-laws and everything, but I still have to make sure that I'm not like taking advantage of their time and overusing their time. So I want to make sure if I'm taking a job, it's going to pay me what I need to be away for that day and the time that it would take afterwards as far as editing and things like that. So yeah, I think it's being a little bit more deliberate and picky with the jobs that we take on. And then also just what's my capacity now? Like, what can I take on
is that from lack of sleep?
Yeah, well, the first 8 months, there was no sleep to be had. She just started sleeping through the night like a few weeks ago. And so I'm like hoping this is not just like a fluke. But yeah, for sure. Like the no sleep thing is rough. A lot of people say there's no exhaustion, like having kids type of exhaustion. And I think I agree partly with that, but also on another part of that is, at least for me, for women, biologically you change. And I think like your brain capacity just becomes bigger for being able to handle those types of situations. So lack of sleep, being pulled in a million different directions. Yeah. I'm not as broken as I thought I would be. Okay. Not getting sleep.
It's so interesting that you said like the capacity, like your capacity changing, because as you're talking about these things, I'm like, I couldn't imagine. And I don't say this in I don't know how you do this. Like you guys are crazy. I say this in I know that being a mom is like being a supernatural human. Because I'm just like, I already don't have enough time. Right. And I'll get like 7 hours and I'll be like, whew, I didn't sleep that well.
Yeah.
But I also went to bed at 1 this morning and then got up at 9 a.m. today. And I'm like, ooh, slept it. Like 9 a.m. is sleeping in. I'm usually up at 4 or 5 a.m. kind of girl. But I'm in my hustle. I've full circled as well in the sense that I hustled, got comfy, and now I'm re-hustling again to try to be kind of like self-employed all around with my side. I mean, I enjoy teaching though at studios as well. So I like doing that and still being part of the community and working for other people. But like all of these little things that I want to do on a creative end, again, it takes a lot of time. I'm not just going to hit stop recording after this episode and then I have to listen to it back. I have to strip any audio that's a little weird, that we did have some of that happening in the beginning. I have to add captions over it. Then I have to edit it into different forms depending on where I'm posting them. You know, there's just so much. And that's just for this one. Yeah. And then I've got to create the advertising for this episode, right? And like little promos, and there's so much that goes into just this. And then I'm like, and then I have stream, and then I teach. I have to write my classes, and then so just the idea of me trying to take care of myself already just feels like such a tall order. Yeah. So when you talk to me about like life, and all my friends have kids, right? So I'm the one who doesn't. It's so interesting where you saying you thought you weren't going to be able to handle it, but then your body just said, no, this is what we do now. Yeah. And that's just, it's crazy. I'm amazed by it. So I don't know.
I was reading something the other day that was saying that in the first year or two of a baby's life, the mother's brains, it's one of the few times in someone's life where your brain elasticity grows. So in terms of learning new things and taking on new things, this is like the best time for me as a woman biologically. Like my brain is firing on all cylinders basically. So it's like, this is the best time.
The opposite of what you would expect. You would expect to be like just hitting a wall and having the capacity for nothing because you're tired.
Right.
And you're telling me it's the complete opposite side.
No, yeah. I'm actually finding that I'm wanting to dive into new things and learn new things. Wow. And I think it's just because, yes, half of my brain is always going to be like focused on her. Mm-hmm. Like even now in our conversation, in the back of my mind, I'm like, is it nap time? Did she nap yet?
Like,
I'm wondering, did she eat yet? When do I need to pump? Like those things are always going to be in the back of my mind, but I can still have a full-on conversation and be fully present because it's just like my brain has just somehow magically expanded.
Yeah.
And so I think when people talk about like moms being superheroes, I think that's what is happening. Like you're just
you're like literally something supernatural is happening within my body.
Like the
human body is the human body and the human brain, right? They're both just like the most insane like pieces. I say pieces. I love to call the human body a piece of machinery. Yeah, but because like it is. It's just so complex. The things that we are capable of doing, like our bodies heal themselves. Yeah. Like you have to think about like literally someone can slice your arm open with a knife and your body will heal itself. Mm-hmm. It will restore. You sleep, you rest to restore, to rejuvenate your brain and your body. The exercise that we're capable of putting ourselves through, the amount of strength we can have when we say like mind over matter, like your body's about to give up. But if you are mentally like, no, let me do one more, let me do, like you can fight and push through that. And it's like the same thing when we're having, you know, a little mental despair and having a bad day. It's like you have to be the one, your brain, to say like, this is a bad moment, not a bad day, right? Or this is a bad day, not a bad week, not a bad month. This isn't a bad life. Just like, it's the reason why they say to journal, to meditate, to like really just pull yourself in and actually find your own like internal superpowers and like become the best version of yourself. People who are lucky, well, you didn't see how long they were working or pushing to have that one really lucky occurrence, or how strong they had to be to get there, or if like they forced themselves into that luck. Because like manifestation is like a big part of it, right? Yeah. I'm a big manifestor. Yes, like I'm a big into manifestation. Yes. I journal. The one thing I finish, I think I've told you this before, but the one thing I write every single day at the end of every single journal entry is everything is going my way and the universe continuously works in my favor. I write that every single day.
I love it.
I'll write like my journal entry of just kind of like where I'm at with my brain. Yeah. I will, if I had a bad day or something, I'll be like, hey, but it's okay because X, Y, and Z. Today's a new day. And I'll kind of just talk myself into the day, right? I usually journal in the mornings, very rarely at night. Night, I kind of just like, I am a more productive night worker. So I like to tinker and edit and things at night while I watch TV, relax, maybe a glass of wine. Yeah. In the morning is where I do all my reset. Yeah. So I'll write my journal entry. Then after I've written like the actual conversation with myself, I always write things out like, I am talented, I am creative, I am strong, I am healthy, affirmations, I am wealthy, I am, you know, like I write like I'm financially free, I am loved, I am loving, so I'll write out all my affirmations, and then I finish it with that saying of that everything is going my way in the universe.
I love that,
and that is how I start my mornings.
I love it.
And it doesn't matter what happened the day before that. Yeah. And I have some shitty days. It's not like,
it's
not like manifestation is the cure all, you know? No. But I do think that it has completely changed the makeup of the way I live, the way I react to things. Yeah. Whether or not I do
rewiring your brain.
Yeah. So everything you're saying is like, it makes sense, because I do think that we are just just insane pieces of mass floating around the earth. Like it's incredible what we can do. And I don't think people give themselves enough credit for like how much power they hold and like are able, like, you can change the things that you think you cannot change. You absolutely can. And I know it's not like, oh, we all have the same 24 hours, because we don't, because everyone's 24 hours is going to look different, because it's going to depend on where you live, your financial status, whether or not you do have kids and all that jazz. Right. But we all have the option to make the most of those 24 hours. Yeah. That part, I believe. I think we all have options to make those the best or the worst 24 hours. And shit's going to happen, and it's not always going to go the way you have the day planned.
Right. Of course.
But how do you segue from that bad moment? And like, how do you, the reacting parts was the biggest one for me that took me a really long time. Yeah. Therapy, especially. I was like, how do I choose not to react like this? And my therapist did say to me, she's like, well, what if you just didn't react? And I was like, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, you have the option to just not react. Like, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Is that going to make you feel better if you do?
Right.
If not, just don't.
Yeah.
And like, it was so conversations like that.
Mind blowing.
I know.
Like,
Like,
wait.
what do you mean?
Yeah.
'Cause they said something or they did something.
Right.
It's like, okay. The
Yeah.
crazy thing is you don't have to say or do anything back. And that for me was like mind blowing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That one sat with me for a while. I remember journaling like, this bitch said.
Yeah. Right.
I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? So,
I mean, it's obviously, it's easier said than done.
always.
Of
And
course,
it's always
but-
easier to give that advice to someone else than to
Sure.
practice it yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And because of all the self-work that I've done and because I have the patience and I'm able to like think before I react versus there was a time in my life where I was volatile. Like
Yeah.
there was no thinking before reacting. There was only reacting, and it
Yeah.
was only in an aggressive, like, you don't talk to me that way. You
Right,
don't say this to me. You
right.
don't, like, who do you think you are? And, she was a tough one to deal with. I had to get through that, but it's always easy for me to take my healings and my learnings and push them off on everybody else that I meet when they're having troubles, and really talk them through their worst times and help them feel the best they can. And then it's like, when it's my turn, I'm like, well, no, that doesn't work for me.
Right.
That works for everybody
Do as
else.
I say,
but me.
not as I do.
Right, exactly. And I think, and we've talked about being a people pleaser, and like that was something that I had to really take a long time to undo. And I don't know that I was a people pleaser in this. I don't know. It was really hard to explain. I always was like, I don't care what you think of me type of thing. But then if it was someone who was really close to me, I never care about if other people think I'm overdressed, or if people think this, or if I'm the loudest person in the room. Like I have no social anxiety. And I think that's growing up as a performer. Like, I don't have social anxiety. I don't walk in a room and give a shit what anybody's thinking about me.
Right.
But if you, a close personal friend, if I think is mad at me, that will derail my entire day.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I become a people pleaser. I don't want you to be mad at me. Are you okay? Noelle likes to thumbs up my messages, guys. And I don't know why she hates me so much. But if you're not hearting my message, I assume that you want me to go crawl inside a hole and never come back out. You never want me to text you again. We're not friends.
I am like quintessential millennial. Okay. Like, I just didn't know. I've been schooled, and now I only heart everything.
And she knows that it's not me making this up, because I've sent her multiple reels about this exact situation.
Yeah. Well, now I know. And honestly, people pleasing in business, in your business,
we grew up with the customer's always right.
Yes.
And that is not the case, my friends.
Right. Well, and it can really go to the next level sometimes too, when you're trying to just please people in your business, and you have to set those boundaries.
Financial little
right. So there does have to be boundaries there, and making sure that I would always see this in the wedding industry, where photographers would get really hung up on like clients who would like text them all the time and like DM them, and it just it seemed like it got very personal. And I'm like, listen, guys, my clients don't text me.
Right.
And if they do text me, I say, hey, shoot me an email. I need to like basically catalog this conversation, because otherwise I will forget. I drop the ball on things. Like, I need it to be in my inbox. And setting that clear boundary in the very beginning is life-changing.
Yeah.
And so I think that sort of kind of plays into the people pleasing aspect, because when clients text you or whatever, you want to get back to them right away, and you want to be like on top of things. So knowing that as a people pleaser, I would want to text them back right away and want to answer their question or solve their problem or whatever, I knew I needed that boundary. Like, I can't have clients texting me.
It would never end.
Right. And so just knowing that as a business owner, that like that people pleasing tendency can derail things, you just need to set those boundaries and know that like it can't take over your life, because then otherwise there's no work-life balance.
No, and we're prioritizing that more now.
Yes.
For
Again.
sure. I got rid of my Apple Watch specifically for these exact reasons.
Yeah.
I've had people be like, you have an Apple Watch.
Yeah.
You saw my text. And I'm like, I actually saw it and forgot.
Right. Which is part of the problem.
That was my worst problem. It was like
Yeah.
my problem with my Apple Watch. It was like, I wanted to read everything the second my watch went off.
Yeah.
And then it was red.
Yeah.
And I'd forget about it. And
to
then
respond.
So
yeah,
for me,
yeah.
it's easier to not have it and doesn't wait till I get to my phone
Yes.
to actually see and respond.
Right.
And if I can't respond in the moment, I won't even open the text. Like because I'm like, I will read it when I can sit down and respond to it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that like I always have my phone in my hand. I'm like, I have a MacBook. So like if I text you right back, it's because I'm literally in the middle of typing an email or editing something. So it's so easy.
Yeah.
Because they're like, you're either text back in 0.2 seconds or 2 days. I'm like, right. Because that's how long it took me to find my phone.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't actually have my phone on me all the time. I lose it constantly.
Yeah.
So
I do think though that like most of my friends, at least as millennials, we do lose our phones a lot. And I think it's because we didn't
grow up like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, I think back to like early, 2000s and in college and stuff. I was constantly losing my phone because the purpose of it was literally just to call or text people, and you didn't.
And then you were with the people, and then you
right,
were on
and
it.
you didn't constantly have it in front of you. So
we didn't film things the way everyone does now. Like everyone films every second of everything, And, and I think it gets to the point where it's like you can't put your phone down.
Yeah. Even like when you had girls' night the other night, and I like purposefully had to pick up my phone and take a few photos because I was like, otherwise I know I'm gonna have like no documentation and I'm not gonna remember to take pictures. And I'm a photographer, but like I just don't. That's not the first thing that crosses my mind when I'm with my friends. Usually my phone is away. I'm not checking it. I'm not taking pictures because I'm like present.
It's hard to find that balance because I think being in content now. I am more thoughtful. Right. Oh, this would make a cute little, I should grab a snippet to record something later. I think like Steve gets a little confused by it. I get torn between that because I do want to be present and I'm like, and we are still newlyweds and I don't want to have my phone out. And I also don't think about it as much as, as I should. So I think I fight with me trying to remember to have my phone out enough to take little bits of content. Yeah. And then I have the other area where I'm like, I don't have it at all and I don't know where it is.
Right.
I think for me, batch creating is the life-saving thing. Like I will create a week's worth of TikToks in 2 days. Yeah. Like I'll just be like, okay, here are all the sounds I want to do and I'll record them. I'll maybe just change my shirt right then and there. So like I'll do a couple in the same shirt, but I'm not going to do like 20. Not that I care, honestly. Yeah. But and then I just draft them. So then if I have in my head like, oh, this is a good peak time to post a TikTok, and then I'll just pull it from the draft, and that takes seconds. Yeah, and I don't have to worry about having my phone out anymore.
Which is like honestly the secret to any like a professional content creator or influencer. That's what they're doing. They're batch 100%. Creating content.
Oh yeah, because you see that question all the time. They're like, how are you guys able to record 3 to 4 videos a day and post? I'm like, we're not. Well, we are in one day. Yeah, creating maybe 10 videos and then separating, like spreading them out through the days. But like, you have to batch create. I think it's like the only way, trying to keep up with everything, trying to make sure you have enough content to post. And like by doing that each day, I think is just it's too hard. 'Cause what if you get sick or what if something happens or not saying that like you have to post every day. It's just like having a plan in place where you're like, I have so much content to post anyway. It doesn't even matter if I don't create anything for the next 5 days.
Yeah.
Like, you know what
exactly.
I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a valid point, and it's something that I think people are learning. Like, I don't think it's something that was always as understood because, like, again, talking about COVID and all those times when we had nothing but time. Yeah. People were just taking videos every day and creating things and gaming and drawing and all that stuff because they had the free time. To do it. So.
Exactly.
Well, I'm so happy that you came here and like hung out with me today. This was like so nice. We like talked to like literally everything.
Yeah. No, this is great.
Literally
like
everything.
Your little like cozy corner over here.
Yeah,
I love it.
Like we're in my little stream room studio space, my little content rooms. My husband just calls it my room.
Your room.
I'll be like, where's this? He's like, put it in your room. I'm like, we share a room. This is my office.
Right. That's actually really cute.
Which my room is filled with a million things. There's 3 monitors, 2 mixers, there's a PC, a laptop, like there's lights, I've got 5 microphones. Like my husband's office has a desk and a computer. Gray walls, a desk and a computer. It's got nothing in it. But the funny thing is someone just asked him the other day and was like, the whole house has got like color and this and that. And he's like, she's like, and your office is like just empty. And he goes, listen. And he waves his hands around, like referring to the house. And he goes, this is a lot. He goes, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So it's like his little like padded cell, basically.
Yeah.
Where he can just.
That's his sanctuary.
That's his sanctuary.
He needs blank walls, like nothing.
Nothing going on.
Well, it's for some backstory. I feel like they need context. He's a programmer. He's a software engineer. So, that's like his world is like he's so into what he's doing.
More about numbers and code, like numbers and letters.
Yeah.
That's it. So he's not a creative. So he is in a sense because he can literally build things from scratch just out of some space, with a space bar.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the hell. Guys, obviously I'm not a coder.
Keyboard.
Yeah. With his keyboard. And so like that's his world and his brain goes to a space that I could never understand, but he doesn't feel the way like I'm like I need more plants and I need more color and I want pillows and I want this and you
need input.
That's just not his world, but I think that keeps us like very balanced. So I don't know. I love it. I love him. It's fine. It's fine. But I want you to just before we go, I want you to tell everyone like once again like where to find you or businesses. Make sure you guys are following. We've got Femina and
so our Femina account for weddings is at Femina Photo and Design. And then Catapult is Catapult & Co. Just CO. And if anyone wants to follow my IVF account, I love just connecting with other people going through all of it, is millennial.ivf.mama. So that's where you can find me.
All right. Well, that's all the time that we have for today. I thank you so much for hanging out with me.
This is amazing. I mean, this is just like a normal
this was how much we talk anyway, so it's totally fine.
Yeah, and we like literally don't get to see each other as much anymore.
No, this was like a really nice catch up.
Yeah, so it was good to just like have uninterrupted time to like talk.
Truly.
So, yeah.
And you're my first guest ever on Let's Talk About It, so you'll go down in history for that. So, but I appreciate you so much.
Yes.
Thank you for taking the time, and I'll see you guys later.